Joakim,
Hey,
how you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. How's Sweden treating you today?
From a quite good side actually. It's springtime. The sun is shining. It's a little chilly, but you hear the birds singing, and it's nice.
Nice. Same
But
thing happening here. I'm in upstate New York, so right now the past few days it's been warming up. Been hearing the spring peepers going, hearing the mockingbirds singing. So that's the telltale signs that spring is coming.
it makes it so much easier when the light in spring and the warmth is coming. It's been a tough year for a lot of us, I think.
We can work out of the house, but we like to travel. We spend most of our time in the Amazon rainforest, so being stuck in upstate New York is getting tiresome. But you make the best of it. But at
Yeah.
least again, the days are getting longer because for us, I'm not sure what it's like in Sweden, but in the winter time, 5 o'clock, it's completely dark. Right now, it's about 7 o'clock. We're getting sunset now, so the light's coming.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's the same situation here. During December, we have it's dark by 3 o'clock p.m.
Wow.
and it's maybe it's light around 9 a.m., something
Hmm.
like that. So really short days, and you know that's tough.
Yeah.
I used to live, yeah, I lived in Asia. I lived in Thailand for 8 years, and sand between my toes, diving
Hmm.
every day. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's a big change for now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
all things come to an end, even the bad stuff. So better days are coming. My
yes.
first question is, and I always like to ask Da Vinci types this question: how did you get your start, say from childhood to what you're doing today as a conservationist, a photographer, a filmmaker? Typically with Da Vinci types, it's never that straight line like most people travel. It's kind of like that. So what got you to where you are today?
So yeah, from the beginning, we when I grew up next to the ocean with a family of I have a twin brother, and he suffers from cerebral palsy.
Hmm.
He's one of Scandinavia's most famous stand-up comedians
Wow.
now, not then. And I
Hmm.
have a sister, but we didn't have so much money, so we could go on holidays and vacation all the time when I was growing up. So we had this boat, and every summer we went out and stayed out at sea, like weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, and I got my first diving mask when I was 3 years old, and that was the best investment my mom and dad could make. Uh, since then, I was more underwater than above surface, and I loved it. I totally fell in love with it. And when I was 10 years old, I took my first diving certificate, and it's been a very important side thing in my life. Always been diving, always been having a need for the ocean. Um, it wasn't until 2007 when I had my first encounter with a manta ray that totally changed my life. I, it was like an angel from the blue just occurred and stayed with me for 50 minutes, and I was alone with it, just circled around me, and I was like, wow, I never experienced a huge big animal like that before in the water. And that should have been a fantastic experience, but when we came up in the boat, there was a Swedish guy there, unfortunately, who opened a beer can, knocked it back and threw the beer can over his shoulder in the sea, and I reacted really strongly to that. And after he did that, I started to notice different things when I was diving, destructive human impact. And when I came home to Sweden, I decided to do something about it, and I did, and that was how it started. So I did an exhibition about marine debris, 2008, and I got economic support from the government to do it. And it was like a video installation, and it took off. All the news channels, all the newspapers, TV stations, everybody took it, and that led to the next full documentary that I made about ghost nets in the Baltic Sea, and that took me out on the international, platform. So yeah, short story, long story short.
How much garbage is in the ocean?
They say about between 13 and 18 million tons a year.
Wow.
Ends up in the ocean, and a lot of that is because we don't take care of it on land.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just leave garbage, it will end up in the ocean finally, because that's the lowest point. It follows rainwater and creeks and so on, and winds, and and this is a major problem that will bite us in the bum if we don't do anything about it. This is something we really need to address.
You have the garbage, what would be floating on top, but then below is all the microfibers, which plankton and fish will eat.
Yes, that's true. Plastic won't biodegrade. It will degrade to smaller and smaller pieces, and finally becomes microplastic, as you said. And the definition of microplastic is a piece smaller than 5 millimeter in diameter. And then you have nanoplastic. But as you said as well, I recently did a documentary about microplastic, and the scientists we work with found microplastic in plankton, and then you have it in the food chain.
Yeah.
The thing is, with microplastic, they work as vectors for toxins and heavy metals as well. So it takes it into the host or body, and there it releases the toxins into tissues and digestions, and it travels the food chain up to our own table. So a lot of fat fish holds a lot of not so good stuff anymore. Sadly, it's so sad.
Now, what are some of the answers of cleaning it up?
Yeah, the first thing we need to do is to stop the flow into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
The microplastic itself will be very difficult to do something about, because you will, I don't know how to scoop that up, and there's no good solution of that in the coming up. But what they've done, there's some river that actually are, it's about 10 rivers in the world that are really super contributors to marine debris, and they try to scoop that up before it reaches the ocean. So it catches the plastic and garbage before it reaches the ocean. That's a really good thing. And also information awareness, recycle stations, accessibility to be able to actually throw your garbage in a sustainable way. That's very, very important.
Is the plastics as well affecting the coral reefs?
Yes, it does, in a way. But the problem the coral reefs have is more the acidification of the ocean because of global warming, because the temperature is rising. I used to say, it's like a rainforest. Every second breath we take, we know this, every second breath we take comes from the ocean. A healthy living sea is vital to every living organism on Earth. And the coral reefs are super collectors of carbon and makes it into oxygen so we can breathe. And we need to understand this on a whole different level than we do now. It needs to be addressed everywhere, because we won't be able to function without that's the source of life right there. Ocean is the source of life.
I've read where you've studied the Goliath grouper.
That we did with Mission Blue. We did a campaign with Mission Blue, Dr. Sylvia Earle.
Absolutely. Very well.
Yeah, so we went down to Florida, to Jupiter, to document them. And at that time, they were about to cancel the protection of that species. And it's according to IUCN, it's classed as highly endangered. So, together with Mission Blue, what we did, but a strong community wanting to save this species, with petitions and protests and everything. they managed to keep the protection of that species. So that was a successful campaign of saving the Goliath group, and they are super cool. Have you been diving with them?
No, I just saw how huge they are. What about 500 kilos?
Yes.
About 1,100 pounds. What's it like swimming?
It's like a big car coming right at you, and they're not very shy. But if you come too close, they warn you. They do this. They do sound, and it bounces in your chest, and you totally feel the vibration in the water, and you feel, okay, it's time to back off. Never aggressive, but they tell you to back
Enough
off.
to leave your space. I'm sure you're glad to at something that size.
Yeah, and I was like, what the hell was that? I never heard that sound before. Yeah, amazing.
Now, as you just mentioned, the ghost nets. Now, I know they're absolutely horrible, but I'd love to have your take and explanation on the ghost nets.
What ghost net is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So wherever we have spare time fishing, commercial fishing, it's basically lost fishing gears. You lose them somewhere you don't know, and they float around, and they maybe get entangled in a wreck or some rocky seafloor or somewhere, and they keep on fishing, but we don't know where and how much. And in the Baltic Sea, the Baltic Sea is unique because it's brackish water. So wrecks from the era of the Vikings you can still find them intact in the Baltic Sea. But commercial fishing with the bottom trawling, they also know that the wrecks around the Baltic Sea or everywhere works as artificial reefs for fish. They seek shelter at the wrecks. So they try to fish as close as they possibly can to those wrecks. And of course, they get entangled. They have to cut the line. So when you dive in the Baltic Sea, almost every wreck looks like a Christmas tree with nets and trawls and lines. And it's dangerous to dive there. But you also find birds, a lot of dead, rotten fish, seals, porpoises. And in Baltic Sea alone, on the Swedish side, approximately 300 to 400 ton a year of cod just went to waste in those nets. And that's potential food for people to eat. So that's an environmental disaster because we use, synthetic material in fishing gears, and we haven't really come up with an idea to, if you lose it, it doesn't just sink to the seafloor and disappear. It becomes a silent killer. Yeah.
River crayfish.
Yeah.
So is that an American bought another species over? Is that the story?
Someone did. I don't know. It was in America. I don't think so. I think that someone heard about that the signal crayfish grow faster and became bigger than our endemic species, the river crayfish. And bringing them also brought the plague. So they wiped out the whole endemic species system. And we have a lot of plague crayfish now. But there are also, if we talk about problem, we also have to talk about solutions. There are heroes around actually working to breed them and release them. And with good result in some water, they managed to get rid of the plague and introduce the river crayfish, the Swedish one, back to the systems. And it's, I can tell you funny, I was there filming that. And this is super secret, locations. And I was excited because it was in a river. It was nighttime, and I asked, should I bring diving gear? Should I bring my underwater camera? So yes. Should I bring my full face mask with communication so you can talk to me when I'm underwater? So, yeah, you can bring all things, And we came there. Carry the stuff for 3 kilometers straight into the woods, and when we reached the location, put the gear on, jumped in, and the water was this deep all over. So I was standing there with a full face mask above. I couldn't. It was crazy, but we got some footage. But sometimes things happen that you.
Laying on your belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just lay down. It's really
Yeah.
deep down here. It's really Mercury.
Yeah, with the introduced species, you just unfortunately you see it over and over and over again. Even here in upstate New York, we have an issue with the water chestnut plant, which came from Asia. Someone brought it over in Saratoga Springs, which would be about 2 hours north of me, for an ornamental plant for their pond. Well, rains came in the spring, pond overflew, and went into the Hudson River. And now from the Hudson River, from Saratoga Springs all the way down to New York City, the coast of the river is choked out by these water chestnuts, pushing other plants out. I mean, they're dangerous. I've had 5 friends who drowned by swimming in the river and getting caught and tangled up in it. And it was just one single person who bought the plant from Asia. So the tiniest little change, it creates catastrophes.
Yeah, I think that human as a species, Homo sapiens, we always took the easy way. Since the Industrial Revolution happened, we always choose the not so smart solutions like fossil fuels, like deforestations. Like we're thinking the wrong way.
Yeah,
and we see now, definitely know, being in the Amazons, how important those ecosystems are, and how fragile it is, and how if we take it away, it's going to become a totally different planet to live on.
Yeah.
If we don't turn this ship around, preferably yesterday, but
Yeah.
um, and still I know so many people like yourself, and that really works, putting their life into to try to change people's attitude, and I love them. I totally admire you guys. That's
Oh, thank you.
yeah. That's
It's the public relations. It's no different than a business. You got to sell the product, and if you can't get people to care, it's done for.
Yeah.
Now, you're Lumic's a global ambassador, and you went to film over in Madagascar, place I haven't been yet, but will be there one day. It is so fascinating. What was your experience in Madagascar?
It's a fantastic little. No, it's not so little. It's a big island, but it has its own ecosystem, different from anywhere in the world, with species totally different from anywhere, and the people, beautiful culture, beautiful people. And I was imagining that the Madagascar detached from the landmass of Africa millions of years ago, but in fact it comes from Indonesia. So people are more related. The indigenous people of Madagascar look more like Asians than
Asian.
Africans.
Okay.
Yeah, Indonesian, and it's so it's beautiful, and you have all the reptiles. It's a vast biodiversity of lemurs and reptiles, and it's rich, but it's also very exposed to trafficking, illegal trade with threatened and endangered species, illegal deforestation, and so on. And that's why we were there. We did the campaign for this new camera, but also to highlight these important topics. And I could choose that. I was honored to do that launch, but it has to have a meaning as well for me. It's important.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. And speaking of a meeting that is extremely important, I know that you're very passionate about protecting elephants from poaching. And
Yeah, I just signed a contract now with the Swedish television, SVT. You know, it's public service, non-commercial. The biggest station we have. It's like BBC, but in Sweden.
mhm.
For a TV series that we're going to launch later on. I'm not going to talk too much about what it's about,
Sure.
but it's of course it has to do with what I do.
Mhm.
And when you talked about elephants, oh, did you have a specific question there?
Well, I saw a lot of the radio tagging you were doing, but just even the process of what's being done to protect them from poachers. And
I have a mentor. His name is Dr. Alan Carlson, and he
Mhm.
used to work. Used to work as a biologist for World Wildlife Fund, in conservation biologist. And I've been walking next to him for about 8 years, and he taught me a lot. And we've been doing expeditions together to African countries, Tanzania, Kenya, Mozambique, when it comes to the poaching of elephants and rhinos. And I remember the first time I was there, that was 2013, I think, that I did a job with that topic. And it was down in Selous in Tanzania. It's a wild game reserve, as big as Denmark surface. And the poaching there have had industrial proportions. So it's been declining from the 70s with 270,000 elephants to now 15,000. So just in that area, they kill about 10,000 elephants a year because of the tusks. And the first time I really got affected and heartbroken was when we came upon a little baby bull, little baby elephant. And that little baby elephant was nudging his or her dead mother lying on the ground in a pool of blood with no face. Her face was gone. And this little guy, I get emotional when I talk about this, right? This little guy tried to wake her up. And that stayed with me. And that really affected my drive to work harder, to try to make an opinion, to try to stop this, because this is so, it's end up as material things. It's such a waste of life, and they are as most important in the rightful environment, and they work as if they guard the forest and they plant new trees, and they are the forest keepers, the real nature heroes, those elephants, and the people working with them, because that little baby elephant was saved and also released back now later on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Some of the things that they
implement community action, military action, radio collar telemetry to track them. What seems to be the most effective ways to protect them at this point?
I think it's a combination of it all, but it's also a different kind of poaching. If you go south in South Africa, it's like organized crime mostly, and really well equipment. And the further up you come, the more it's more like terrorist organizations, like Al-Shabaab is financing their stuff with ivory trade and the poaching of rhinos. But I think I was in Ruaha together with Alan as well when they tried out to check the area with drones. And first tryout, I think they discovered 7 poaching camps.
Wow.
And I think they arrested 8 poachers on that single tryout. So that's a thing that they use now, patrolling drones.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's probably the most efficient way to cover ground.
Yes. What we did the last time was to actually tranquilize elephants. Important, leader of the herd, a female, or these solitary males with big tusks. So they were tranquilized, and they attached this satellite collar on them so they could monitor them 24/7. Because it's not only poachers, it's also conflict with farmers, and elephants go into the crops and eat their crops, and it's a big problem because we are we are spreading. The human race is spreading, and but my belief is that we can live, and we have to live together with nature and what we have instead of it all the time. We have to rethink everything.
Definitely the coexisting. And I thought of it an interesting thing. I remember reading a story where a African elephant was raiding a village and just tearing the place apart, eating the food. But it was an adolescent, and the typical adolescents: humans, moose, bear, elephant. They could be jerks.
Definitely.
I guess instead of shooting it, what they did is they brought in a full-grown bull elephant into the area to where he was the alpha male, and that calmed that adolescent down real quick. I love the concept. It worked.
That's a great story, and that's how it's working. And what they also do they try to come up with unlethal methods, especially when it comes to farming conflicts with agriculture and all that. They take elephant dung and they bake it into bricks, like bricks, and they push a lot of chili in there, lots of chili, and they set them on fire. So when the elephants come, they set on fire, and when an elephant get that smoke in the trunk, they run and they won't come back. I tried to inhale that. Yeah, I tried to inhale that smoke, and I almost died. It was the worst thing.
I can imagine.
Not only that it smelled like shit, it was really strong shit.
Yeah, chili shit, man. You can't get worse than chili shit.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Now, I also saw another thing super envious about, and on my bucket list is you've covered and assisted in mountain gorilla counting. One, it was not an easy job. Two, it is not a safe job. What was that experience like?
It's an amazing experience. I totally fell in love with that. I was hosting a TV show called Surrounded by Nature when I first met gorillas and mountain gorillas. And since then, I also got along really well with the IGCP, the International Gorilla Conservation Program. So I actually started there to help them out. I was there giving them photo lessons, how to hopefully become better photographers. And we had photo sessions out in the fields. We had really good time. And then I was there to document twice the gorilla counting, or when the gorilla inventory. And what you do there is actually you don't count individuals. It's nearly impossible because it's a few gorilla families that are habitated, they're used to people, but most of the gorillas living up in the Virunga or in Burundi, Uganda, or Congo are really shy. So as soon as they hear you or smell you, they take off. And that's because also due to poaching and things like that. Anyway, so you're looking for nesting. You're mapping a whole area. It takes like 10 weeks to map Burundi, as I was now the latest was Burundi, the impenetrable national park of Uganda. And it's really, that terrain is crazy. It's tough work and it's dangerous because you have wild elephants, you have buffaloes in the forest, you have terrorists and rebels as well, and poachers. So it's a cocktail of, you have to be careful. And what these guys do, trackers, staff to IGCP, scientists, they with a GPS grid, they cover every square meter of this area, and they looking for gorilla nesting, because mountain gorillas, they build a nest every night, a new nest, and they go to sleep. And when they leave in the morning, they do the business, number one and number two, and that's what you're looking for, actually, gorilla feces. So that's what you're collecting, and in that way you can also, then you can secure, DNA, and you can count gorillas that way. But of course you encounter gorillas on the way as well, and it's amazing to see how similar they are to us, but with more hair. It's the socializing in the family, how they play, how they laugh, how they get grumpy. It's amazing. And I think everyone that have the opportunity to actually meet our cousins will fall in love, and feel that this is so important. And this is also a success story, because in the 80s, in the Virunga part, there were only about 280 individuals, probably the same in the Bwindi, but they never did count them there. And that was during the time of Diane Fossey. And it's a success story, because you totally turned a negative trend to a positive outcome. Today it's over 1,000, I think it's 1,064 individuals. So they reached the magic 1,000 individuals back 2019 now, when they finished the gorilla census. And also managed to create a circle economy with the gorillas in the center. So now gorillas are much more valuable alive than anything else, and in the right environment, because people come and they pay quite a lot of money. In Burundi, it costs $500 for a gorilla meeting. Up in Rwanda, I think it's $1,500. And in Burundi, 30% of that money goes back to communities. So it goes to healthcare, to education, to clean water. So that actually created a sustainable circle economy for tourism is important. So that's a success story right there.
And that's really the secret that I've
Discovered is that it's the economics of it. And if we can make these animals profitable, alive, sustainable, educational, I mean, that's really the secret to protecting them, because it's just so much greed in the world. If you don't have that bottom line, that profit bottom line, they'll fall by the wayside.
Yes, definitely.
Speaking of Virunga National Park, there was that terrible massacre there. There's 16 people murdered, and was it 13 were park rangers? How did that affect you?
Some of them I've met throughout but being a conservationist and working in conservation is one of the most dangerous profession you can have. And in Africa, it's at least, in those countries that we've been working, it's at least sadly one ranger a week that's murdered or killed in the line of duty, or and it's, I think those guys working, women and men working, wanting to protect something they believe in. They want to protect species. They want to protect their land and nature. And it's economical interests, and it's terrorists, and they actually, they risk their own life every single day. When they wake up, they put their uniform on, they take their weapon, and they go to work, knowing that it could be can be the last day.
And that shows their passion for it. I mean, to know it and do it.
Yeah.
That's passion.
For me, if you ask me, they are the true nature heroes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Find out who actually did the murders, who were the culprits of this massacre?
I think it was some rebel group or terrorists or something. I don't know if it. I don't dare to speculate too much in that. But it was definitely a planned hit from an organized group of rebels.
What a tragedy.
Yeah.
Back to the ocean. Like you said, it's our lifeline. But so little of the ocean is protected. How much is the ocean protected now, percentage-wise, and how much do you think should be or needs to be protected? I'm guessing it's a huge gap.
It's an enormous gap, and I think it's a really relevant and good question. And there are experts that can answer that better than me, but we have about 6 to 7% of our ocean is protected actively. And most experts say that we need to protect at least 30 to 33% of our ocean. Some people even stretch to 50%, and I agree with them, because we've seen so much, proof of when you leave areas alone, life will come back and thrive. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand this.
Right.
But it's also human greed, I think. And I think it's important to now the situation in our ocean look like we fished out our ocean between 70 to 90%. So we need to start to protect areas where, and there are good examples of, areas where nursery areas or areas where species go to spawn and to, how life is coming back and spill over to those fishing zones. So if you do leave marine protected areas alone or create more protected areas, it will also provide more fish for food. And we know that 3 billion people are dependent on fish as their primary source of protein in the world. And I don't talk about rich countries. And still Sweden have it. We buy fishing rights and we go over to African coasts and sweep clean with trawls and trawling, and it's not sustainable. It's so short-term thinking, I think. We need to. I don't eat seafood anymore.
Yeah, I don't either. And
Where I live in the Amazon, there's like an outlaw city called Belen, and it's the slum of the slums. But they have their open markets, and it's so sad. You see the monkeys sitting, on boxes with the ropes around their necks, and the parrots and sloths all hanging around being sold. But every morning the fish that come into that market, and caiman, black caimans, spectacle caimans. Some of these caimans are pushing 15 feet long, killed and thrown out for food. 3-foot catfish, 9-foot pieces, and it's just wall to wall fish. And this is every single morning. And they don't even have refrigeration. So if it doesn't get bought, it's rotten by the end of the day. And I'm thinking, how can this be sustained? Well, it can't be. But how long? When's it going to bottom out? And this is just a tiny little spot of my world. And this is happening all over the world.
It is. I think it's a total waste of nature resources. We create. How many people are we on this planet now? Are we 7 billions or something? And I think we create food for 14 billion every year.
Yeah.
And when you don't eat it, you throw it, or it becomes biogas, and it's such a waste, and it's has such negative impact on the whole environment with emissions and all the negative things you can imagine. And that's also something I think that Americans, where I've been, New York and San Francisco, are really great in changing lifestyles towards a more sustainable, healthy future. And that's something we could learn more of. We think we're so good in Sweden. We're like they call us Little America in Europe.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
So we need to be better as well to learn from each other, all these communities. Let's start a community with people that actually can contribute of changing this. This is awesome. And you're on the go now. You started this.
You filmed sharks in the Cocos Islands as well, correct?
Yeah, shit,
How
I've
was
been
that?
everywhere. That's also amazing because I work. One thing that I have to say that what I do is I'm a host. I can be in front of the camera, behind the camera, but I always work with scientists. So my job is to actually take what they say and spread the word.
Right.
And I had the opportunity and the honor to work with Todd Steiner, and he's the founder of Turtle Island Restoration Network, and some of world leading shark experts on that Cocos Island expedition. And the purpose was that try to create a swimway between Cocos Island and the Galapagos for migrating species. We'd focus on sharks because there is shark heaven. It's such an abundance of different sharks. I've never seen anything like it before. Tigers, you have the Galapagos shark, you have scallop hammerheads, you have it's so amazing. And so we were tagging them, and we were tagging them in different ways. So one method was to dive to cleaner stations and just sit there hiding, waiting for a shark to swim by, and then they spear them at the dorsal fin with the tag. And the other method was to go out before diving very early to catch sharks from boats and bring them to the side of the boat, take blood sample, take a little skin sample, make a little stitch in and put an audio transmitter and stitch it up, and also a satellite tag on it. And that was amazing to see. And it's and to be there and to help them and to I love sharks, and that sharks actually was the reason I started to dive. When I had a dream of that someday, hopefully, be able to dive and swim with sharks. And I've been working quite a lot with sharks now over the years, and I totally love them. They've been, prehistoric, 450 million years, and they're still here. And it says a lot about how they can adapt to changing environments. And they're superheroes, queens and kings of the oceans.
Yeah, for sure. What's the current issue going on with the shark fin trade?
The shark fin trade is, people say that about 75 to 100 million sharks are killed every year. We have a big problem now in Europe. So Europe is one of the biggest exporters of shark fins in the world to Asia. And we try to stop that. We need to stop it. And it's illegal to fin a shark on a European Union fishing vessel. But, inspection at sea are really rare. So it's an ongoing crime. And this is something we really have to stop, because it's not, experts, biologists, marine biologists have been working with this for years and been, doing the PhD, and everyone says the same thing. They are important for the balance in the oceans. They are important as apex predators, top of the chain. We need them.
And aside from that, it's just brutal.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. Imagine if someone came and cut your arms or ears off and just leave you there.
And then just throw you back.
Yeah.
No, that just makes me question humanity when I see things like that. It's very disturbing.
Yeah. and also as apex predators, being on top of the food chain, the substance, the toxins they have in their bodies, it can't be healthy to eat, from a health perspective, and that can be quite important to talk about, because people do care about their own health, and I think it can be quite toxic to eat shark fin.
Yeah, it magnifies up the food chain. Studied birds of prey for years, and I've had a couple dozen peregrine falcons. And in my speeches, I talk about on how when DDT was brought in to kill insects, the passerine birds were eating the insects, and then the falcons were eating the passerine birds, and it just accumulated so much to where it would thin out the eggshells. And that was bad enough, and we don't eat peregrine falcons.
No.
Imagine eating it now. The same thing is happening with toxins, but we're eating it when it comes to the shark fin.
True. No. But Cocos Island as an island, have you been there?
No.
It's an amazing place. It's like you can feel the pirates breathing down your neck when you're
really. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, and I also had the opportunity to go down to, I think it was 1,000 feet with a submersible to see they're working together with the University of Costa Rica and looking for new species or old species, and I got the opportunity to actually go on a deep dive with the submersible, and that was something else as well. I never done that before. And traveling through the twilight zone when it gets dark, and then you're surrounded by darkness basically, except for the light from the submersible.
The bioluminescence.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I had a dream that I went down in submersible with Sylvia Earle, and it was down deep, and it was just incredible seeing the bioluminescence. It was just an incredible thing. And I know Sylvia, so I emailed her. I said, I had this crazy dream last night, and I explained it to her. And then she said, well, come on down, and I'll take you down for real. Oh, wow. And it just never worked out, but oh my God, I can imagine all this thing going down with Sylvia.
Do it if you have the opportunity. I know that Sylvia's daughter Liz, they're working with submersibles, I think, as well. So they have the equipment.
Yeah, it's got to be life changing.
Yeah.
You also worked. Was it the National Park of Greece with the loggerhead sea turtle?
Yes.
They're prehistoric, man. They're so cool.
They are. I love them. But you're a reptile guy, right?
Yeah. Reptile and birds of prey are my specialties, but I do dabble with all different types, but I work with them the most.
Zakynthos in Greece is very popular tourist island, of course, as many other islands in the Greek archipelago. And they do have loggerheads, and loggerheads is classed as endangered. And sometimes it seems like when we go on holidays, like, summer holiday, to the beach, having drinks, whatever, we leave our responsibility at home. And I was there to actually do a thing about tourism and the impact of tourism and marine debris and loggerheads. And they don't have an easy start. Only 1 out of 1,000 makes it to adulthood. So yeah, but the changes are happening there as well in a positive way. So people are more aware about them. People, they organize, beach cleanups every year, which is symbolic. And some people, it's like putting plaster on cancer, but it does help. It does help. And it's also show other people that they care, and it's getting more and more. So yes, and it's amazing. Staying over, we were on this secret beach where you're not allowed to go. One of the most important beaches in Mediterranean for the loggerheads to nest, and you just and we were lucky to have full moon. So it was like full moon, and you sit there waiting. Yeah, and then suddenly you hear, and you turn around and you see this, old prehistoric beings coming up from their element up to a new different element, and in the water they also, that's their environment. Right. And when they come up and changing environment, they become this slow. Yeah, it's awesome. So we were there, and when they dig, the what do you call them? Flippers. What do you call those in English? Yeah, it becomes like a scoop, like a spade. So
shovel,
yeah, like a shovel. Yeah, it's amazing to see that. I love that.
Now, when they lay eggs,
they almost get into a trance in a way, right?
Yeah, you probably know much more about that than I do, but it's fascinating to see, and they do. Yeah, it felt like a trance, and we were there with infrared. You couldn't have lights on,
right,
to in darkness, and I got some good footage of egg coming out.
Wow.
So yeah, amazing. And then I also swam with them. I was in the water when the hatchlings, start to move towards the sea. So I was there filming them in the water as well. And I fall in love every time.
Sure.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You said a lot of the positive progress that we've gotten from protecting endangered species many times has come from advertisers, which are really bringing the issues to light, and having a celebrity spokesperson, like for instance Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
How much does that benefit?
Oh, I think that has a big impact. Jackie had this with the rhino, and Wild Aid is an organization in America based in San Francisco, and they're doing it really good, I think. And they use celebrities and high-end celebrities. The famous Chinese basket player.
Oh yeah. Yao Ming?
Yeah. He did this when the buying stops, they kill a country, about shark fin trade.
Mm-hmm.
And the shark fin business went down dramatically after his campaign. So of course it has an impact.
Yeah, you see that sea change when someone who connects with millions of people, they just say a few words and the rest of them follow. Yeah, it needs to be done to the best of its ability to get the PR out there, because that's really what's going to save it. As I see, I feel so sad of seeing people doing such the grunt work, being in the jungles, being in the ocean, being in the deserts, and doing the grunt work study, but that information isn't getting to the general public, because a lot of the general public isn't going to sit there and read a scientific dissertation. But to have a spokesperson like that has that broad appeal to come on board, it's a game changer.
Yes, definitely. And that's what I think it's most exciting with Explorers Club. There's so many different fields of experts and genres of from conservation to space travel to archaeology to everything, and the network there is real. I love that. I really do.
It's a fantastic network.
Yeah.
Iceland and Norway, is whaling still legal?
I think so. I think that I think they do. I think Iceland stopped now.
Okay.
I think Norway still.
Now, does Japan still have it where they use it as scientific research in that?
Yeah.
Quotes, big quotes.
Yeah. I can't understand. That's also one thing that we need to address really, really harder. Everyone who had the power to make changes. I'm doing a project now actually with that's I'm super happy about this. But I had a dream for so many years to be filming or documenting the most beautiful part of the Nordic countries, the 5 Nordic countries. But I didn't want to do it like a normal, or I don't know, documentary. I want to do something different. And I got the opportunity to pitch this for the CEO of the Gothenburg Symphonic Orchestra. And the Gothenburg Symphonic Orchestra is also the Swedish National Symphonic Orchestra. So they are the orchestra representing Sweden globally, internationally, and they are super skillful musicians, world famous musician in that orchestra. And my idea was to actually use already existing music, old music from Nordic countries. But when I pitched it, they loved the idea so much. So they now brought in 5 different composers from 5 different Nordic countries. And they will write original music to what we film. And when everything is finished and the celebration of anniversary of Gothenburg celebrating 400 years, it's going to be a big concert, and everything we film, if I've been diving with orcas and they swim over me, it's going to be projected in the ceiling, northern light in the ceiling, glaciers on the side. We're going to use the whole room as a projector with live music on stage. And at least in Scandinavia, it hasn't been done like that before. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really cool.
What a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to reach a different kind of audience as well. You're welcome to come on the concert.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Yeah, let me know when it is. I'd love to see it. Through the years, I've noticed that as it comes to whaling, a lot of the Scandinavian countries have been more accepting of it through the years. 1, why is that? And 2, has that changed?
Yes. Sweden has never been into whaling like that. Iceland has, Norway definitely then. And I think like this, that's a culture that goes back thousands and thousands of years back, or at least hundreds and hundreds of years. And if you go to Svalbard and John Myron, it's everywhere you go there, it's witness about, everything is about hunting. Polar bear hunting, walrus hunting, Arctic, back in the days, not anymore, but back in the days.
Right.
So a lot of old hunting cabins, a lot of, things are just left there from back in the days. And being quite poor as well. Up north of Norway, that's hard environment. And back in the days when the community was not so, easy, and you lived there and you stayed there, you had to survive there. I think it was quite easy access to go out and hunt whale, and then you had food for a long time. They still eat whale in Norway, but now it's more about traditions and culture, I think, to preserve that. And that's something I think we need to be able to change sometimes. That's what I think, just how I look at it, because we're not hunters and collectors anymore. We don't need it anymore. It's more like a tradition, and it's always been like that. That's why we have to keep to it. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's bad. So it's that's a tricky one, I think. And it's also when you discuss topics like this, it's very infected, and you get a lot of hate, and you get a lot of things like it's. If we discuss the wolf issue in Sweden, it's super infected.
Montana here.
Yeah.
You have the environmentalists and then you have the ranchers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but when it comes to humpback whales, I heard that you guys in New York have humpback whales outside New York City now.
Yes.
That's quite cool.
Cape Cod. One of the best places. You go out to the tip of Cape Cod, Provincetown. They have their whale watching boats, and they guarantee sightings.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing, because the population of humpbacks are they coming back in big number,
Hmm.
and that's so great. Also, walruses are coming back.
Hmm.
Polar bears are declining, sadly, but there are good. There are some spotlights
Hmm.
of positiveness that we also need to lift up, so it's not all dark all the time, because people get scared and people get fed up with it. And look at the pandemic now. You work with the same thing to change people's attitude and raise awareness, and you're doing a great job. But how many times have people said to you, why bother? It's no idea. People want change. People want,
Hmm.
do you come across that?
Oh yeah, very much, very much. Yeah, and it just shows on how separated from nature the human race has become.
Yeah.
We're becoming domesticated.
Yes. Yes. But also interesting, I think, from this pandemic point of view, that people said to me, no, people not going to change lifestyle routines, whatever. And the pandemics hit, and
Hmm.
yeah, most of us changed, lifestyle and routines
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So if you have to, or if the will is there, it's
Hmm.
possible. Nothing is impossible.
Hmm.
Everything is possible.
Oh, I saw a video of yours of that bear eating the fish. Now, is that a leucistic? What is that?
No,
It's like a
that
white bear, but it didn't look like a polar bear.
no, it's I love that story. I was up in British Columbia, a place called Hartley Bay in the Great Bear Rainforest, and I was working with First Nation Gitgat people up there, Marvin, and they have something called spirit bear or Kermoda bear. It's a white black bear, but
Oh,
it's
it's a
not
white
an
black bear. Okay,
yeah,
a
but it's not
big
an
black bear.
yeah, it's not an albino. It's lacking melanin.
Okay.
So, but it takes both parents to have that recessive gene.
Was that leucistic? It's where they almost look albino, but they don't have the pink eyes, and
Exactly.
it's more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's lacking melanin, and every 10th bear are born white in that area, and that
Wow.
white spirit bear has a very important place in history and culture of the Gitgat people. It's on
Hmm.
totem poles, it's in stories, and also one of the stories says that one day the spirit bear will save the Gitgat people.
Hmm.
And about 30 years ago, forest companies were about to cut down the forest there, and the Gitgat they kept the existence of that white bear secret from the rest of the world, because they didn't want to have any trophy hunters or
Hmm.
things like that. But when the forest companies decided to cut the forest, they went out with the secret of the existence of this spirit bear.
Right.
And National Geographic, BBC, everyone came there, and they did, and actually made the spirit bear actually managed to make a protection of the forest.
Nice.
So in that way, that spirit bear saved the people. So
Yeah.
that's how the story goes, and it's really fun. And I have to tell you one more. I didn't experience it myself, but Marvin, the guy I worked with up there, he was there with the BBC team, and they followed a big white male. I think he's called Mushroom as well. That that bear. But anyway, suddenly when they were up there, one of the photographers came running in panic to Marvin. It's like, the bear is dying. The bear is dying. Come on, what could you do? And Marvin ran there and found the bear lying on the ground with the tongue out and like in spasm. And he was, oh my God. So he sat down and started to stroke it under the eye, because the fur here is really soft. And then I need my camera. So he ran and got his camera, and he came back and he sat down again. And then the bear flicked the camera, so it flew away and went, it broke down. And then he stood up and looked at them, and he started to wiggle away like he was drunk. And he wasn't dying. The thing was that he's been eating mushrooms. So he used to come there and eat mushroom to get high. So that he was a high bear. He was high on mushrooms. It's a funny story.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, that's a great story. I'll remember
Yeah.
that one for life. I gotta use that one. Wow.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, do you learn on your own, or had a mentor, or what was
Yeah.
your process?
Start to film underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no classes or courses you can actually
No.
take. It's learned by doing, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of hours behind that. And then after that, I took courses, and I have mentors.
Mhm.
But I never went to university. But I've been working with really good journalists and conservationists throughout the years,
Yeah.
and I've been doing this now since 2007 full
That's
time.
great.
So it starts, yeah.
And that's my process. I cannot be in a classroom. I will learn more by doing, especially if I have a mentor at my side. If I don't, I'm just going to do it till I figure out my mistakes and correct them. But obviously the mentor is even better. But to sit down in the classroom, I've learned more in a half hour being boots on the ground doing it than I've done in a semester sitting in the classroom.
Yes, definitely. And if you do have some mentor or some that you can walk next to, those field hours,
Mm-hmm.
nothing can compare with that.
No.
And that I think that's the best school. At least it works for me better
Yeah.
as well. I'm like you.
Now, one planet, one life, is that your motto?
Yeah, we have one planet, we have one life, at least in the bodies we are in now.
Yeah.
And in that life, we have one chance to make everything right, or at least try to.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if we could try, and you can do. I think you can do small things in your daily life that would have a great impact towards a more sustainable and healthy future. I did actually stop. I became vegan,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't say that everybody should, but I talk about this, and I became vegan to try if that was something for me.
Right.
I was totally convinced that I would miss dairy products, milk, cheese, sausage sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't. And now it's a little more than a year, and I feel really good about it. But
That's great.
I also have to say that I'm not 100% vegan if I go to Sumatra or African country, and if we end up in a situation where someone treat me for lunch or something and it's chicken or fish, I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to say that no, I can't eat that.
Right.
So, but I try, because we have to at least try to make changes towards, and you buy close produced groceries,
Mm-hmm.
locally produced, all that kind of stuff. And I think if we did try, at least, I think next generations will not hate us too much.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, Joakim, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been fantastic. Definitely, it's keep in touch.
Oh, yeah,
Definitely into
definitely.
what you're doing.
And likewise, I love what you do, and I'm really happy that you asked me to join here.
Oh, my pleasure. We shall talk again soon.
Definitely.
All right, Joakim, thank you so much.
Thank
You
you,
have a fantastic day there in Sweden.
and to you in New York.
Okay. Ciao.
Okay. Bye bye.
A Da Vinci Life.